Watchdog on Wall Street's axis of evil. I came up with this, I don't know, it was earlier stages, maybe mid stages, 2000s. And again, it was a response. You had George W. Bush come out and talk about his axis of evil at a State of the Union address. And at the time, he was talking about Iran, Iraq, and North Korea. And after a period of time, I came up with this and I said, those countries don't scare me. They don't. What scares me is the real axis of evil. And that's the axis of evil that can affect each and every one of us. And that's big business, the media, and politicians. And we have demonstrated over the years on podcast, on the radio show, on our appearances, how these three work together to further their agenda, their narratives. Again, that's what we're all about. Dispelling narratives, conventional wisdom, the crap that is being shoved down people's throats. And it's my axis of evil. And I'm going to ask you, you more afraid, you afraid of Kim Jong-un, or are you afraid of the evil that exists right here? And we witness it and watch it every day. I want to give everybody an example of this. And I've talked about these issues, these societal issues, in particular this one, over the years. I don't like doing it. I tend to raise my voice. And again, I know my nature, right? You talk about Socrates, know thyself. Then you go to Jesus, love your neighbor as yourself, all that stuff. But anyway, I see things like this, and they happen on a regular basis with some of the elites. And I just get angry. I get angry. I don't understand how this is not a bigger story. I don't understand how people are not up in arms over this. We got more Epstein documents coming out. And this Epstein fella, this utter piece of garbage. And if you're not familiar with Epstein and the things that he did, what he did to procure underage girls, the human trafficking that was involved, do your homework on it. Do your homework on it. It's disgusting. It really is. You take a look at this and you say to yourself, there's a level of evil that's out there that most of us, and again, I don't think we like to even talk about this or think about this because I think it disturbs us. It's so utterly disturbing that there are people like this in the world. It's difficult for us to get our arms around. And that's why many times I think it goes one ear and out the other, because it's almost like a coping mechanism to some degree for human nature. As it turns out, Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, former president of Harvard, he wanted to help his wife out. Happy wife, happy life. His wife is a poetry professor at Harvard, and wanted to have a PBS special on poetry. And Larry Summers went to Epstein. This is after Epstein was convicted. All of the information came out just how evil this guy is. It didn't matter to Larry Summers. All he cared about was the money. That's all he cared about. He went to Epstein for philanthropy advice. Larry Summers, and more of these stories of the elites hanging out with this guy, Woody Allen, hanging out with Epstein and doing movie screenings. You can go on and on and on with all of these elites. I know he's got his private island there, had his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Where he had again, procured underage girls to do things. And if you actually take a look at some of the emails, the Wall Street Journal story today, the disgusting, the executives over at JP Morgan talking about young girls and Disney characters. Again, for most of us, it's difficult for us to get our arms around things like this. And I freely admit, I say no myself. I get violent thoughts in my mind, what I'd like to do to these people. Okay. What are we getting at here? I'm talking about the underlying evil that exists in the world of the elites. And again, we're always about trying to dispel conventional wisdom, narratives out there. And I'm going to ask everybody, because I know you're going to get some people, oh yeah, Larry Summers, he's a Democrat. He worked for the Clinton administration. There's just bad people everywhere. And like I said, I've been around the block. I've been to many different events. I've been involved doing media for a long period of time. For instance, is the latest story out here about this guy on the right. He's a big conservative, Crowder. I didn't really follow him that much. And, the things that are coming about him and the things that he had to say. I can give you a laundry list of the people that I've worked with on radio networks, been in contact with at many different events, and just horrible human beings. I don't know how to put it any other way. I don't like to be judgmental, but I definitely look at people in regards to how they go about treating others. I told this story before. It's just years ago, out to dinner with a possible client wanting to do business with us at Markowski Investments. This guy was big doings. No doubt, a lot of money to bring over to our firm. And I'm watching the way he's acting at a restaurant. I'm having dinner with this fella, and the way he treats the staff, the wait staff, and the people around him. I didn't want to do business anymore. Not worth it. Not worth it. I was one of those people that was waiting tables at one point in time. I remember being at this is a major. I'm not going to mention her name. Okay, I'm not going to mention her name. You can figure it out. She also happened to be on the network I was on. Here's another clue. Years ago, I'm at the Republican National Convention. This was in Minnesota. It was Romney running at that point. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Sorry, that was going all the way back. I was going all the way back to McCain. That's right, McCain and Sarah Palin. But anyway, you had all these people that are working Radio Row looking to help out. A lot of college students, recent grads there. And this host at the time was not happy about the printer that was there at her setup. And the way that she was berating the people that were there and ripping into them, and the way that she spoke to them, it was vile. It was vile. And again, complaining about the equipment. And I go to comfort some of these kids after the fact. I said, listen, not all like that. I'm sorry. And they're like, you don't understand, Mr. Markowski. This is her equipment. She doesn't even realize it. It's her stuff that's not working properly. And there's no excuse to me when it comes to that. And again, this is not the first occasion I've been in contact with these people, both on the left and the right. Left and the right. A certain senator, ex-senator from Minnesota that also happened to be on Saturday Night Live. I can't tell you how nasty this guy was. I can go on and on and on with all of these stories. Again, I don't think we as a society, we don't even want to get our arms around this stuff. We choose to ignore it. Again, this is talking about the underlying evil and rot that is here in this country. I haven't talked much here in regards to the violence that we've seen, continual violence that we see here in this country, the shootings, what takes place on almost an all too often regular basis, and how I have to constantly explain to my kids that it wasn't always this way. It wasn't. Oh, it's not supposed to be this way. Life is not supposed to be this way. And you look for explanations. And I do. I get the questions. What's causing this? Oh, is it this? Is it that? People, we've had a breakdown as far as, and this is my opinion. You could tell me I'm crazy, but I don't think so. I go back to the scene in World War Z. And I love that movie, World War Z, where they're in Israel. They're in Israel, and Israel prepared for the zombie apocalypse. They had, figured out what's going on, and they're like, "Well, how did you guys get it? This is so improbable, so impossible." And he said, "Well, we got a rule here." He said, after the Holocaust, because again, nobody believed that either at the time that was possible. Anytime, I guess, when all of the security heads there in Israel, anytime that they vote on anything and everybody votes one way, they take the opposite route. And, basically saying, okay, all of these things, you don't want to believe this is true, but you have no explanation for it. Again, I talk about it all the time. It is a complete decline in morality. We have this moral relativism where there's no right, there's no wrong. People not going to places of worship, churches, synagogues, mosques. These things help keep society together. And people are like, it sounds like, it sounds like these people are possessed by demons. Wouldn't surprise me. Again, you're going to rule it out? That ain't going to be a crackpot. I mean, you got any other explanation? Do you have any other explanation? They still haven't even released that manifesto by the individual trans person, whatever the hell it may be, that shot up the school, because I guess it's so that's what they're telling us. It's so messed up and deranged, they don't want to release it. Is there any other explanation for wanting to go into a school and shoot children? What about the one that took place in Louisville? This guy said he was for gun control, and that's why he was killing people. You're going to rule out? You're going to rule out demonic possession? So many things you talk about. You read the news, you watch this stuff. It's like that there's some sort of zombie apocalypse, for crying out loud. You can't get your arms around it. There's no other way to explain it. And again, sorry, traditional values have their place, and the founders of this country understood that. They knew. They knew. They told us America doesn't work. It doesn't work without morals. And then I know you're going to get the people, these are white men that own slaves. Yeah. Were they compromised? Absolutely. Absolutely. And in my opinion, did God punish this country for that? Yeah. You want to take a look? We have more men died in the Civil War than in every single one of our other conflicts combined, and then some. You take a look at the devastation, read the stories. Again, this is my belief system. You may think I'm crazy, but again, do you have any other explanation for it? I'm all ears. I'm all ears. And what's creepy about this, and it's kind of, I was actually cracking a joke about this Monday. When I was at Fox Business, we're talking about some of these stories and this underlying evil. And I'm like, that whole Stanley Kubrick Eyes Wide Shut thing, that's real. That's real. You've got one of the leading donors, big time donors to Joe Biden and the Democrats, the guy who founded LinkedIn. He was buddies with Epstein. He's still hanging out with the guy. This is after, like I said, all came out. The Miami Herald piece, the procuring young girls. Again, it's interesting. We're kind of divided. Talk about divided America. We're kind of dividing into different camps. I don't know if you saw this yesterday. DeSantis signed into law. Is talking about. I mean, very, very. I say strict, harsh. I don't think that they're harsh. Ways that they're going to be handling sex offenders in the state of Florida, and they're throwing the death penalty in there. They are. I remember years ago, my suggestion was, listen, you gotta buy an island somewhere. My suggestion was buy Greenland or get something, and you're convicted of this type of heinous action, you're gone. You're gone. You have to be exiled to this place. Can't come back. Anyway, I wish I had a better explanation. I just spent some time today on this because it's not that I haven't ignored this on the podcast. We have touched upon it on the radio show. It's just it's a very, very difficult topic to discuss, and it's been my opinion that unfortunately people just they wake up in the morning, they see the stories, and they don't want to deal with it. But again, I've talked about this before. I've noticed it in my kids. My kids get up and they see, mass shooting here, mass shooting at a school, and it affects them. It does. It affects them. Watchdog on WallStreet.com.